Regent Park Neighbourhood Town Hall. Open dialogue with Councillor Chris Moise. Welcome to Regent Park TV. I'm Kedar, and today we bring you the full coverage of the recent Town Hall meeting. On September the 24th, 2024, Councillor Chris Moise hosted a Neighbourhood Town Hall at the Regent Park Community Centre. The event, held from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Multipurpose Room, brought together local residents, MPP Kristyn, Wong-Tam, and city staff to address key community issues. RPTV was on site to capture the important discussions. Councillor Moise shared updates on recent developments and initiatives, including the Downtown East Action Plan reset, new encampment protocols, rental demolition compensation, and community safety. He also highlighted efforts to improve pedestrian safety, expand bike share, and enhance local neighborhood projects. During the open mic session, attendees voiced their thoughts and concerns, raising questions about the Regent Park Social Development Plan refresh. Amongst other topics, the open dialogue allowed residents to share their challenges directly with the councillor and city's representatives, fostering transparency and collaboration. Town hall meetings like this play a crucial role in strengthening Regent Park. They provide a platform for residents to engage with their elected officials, ensuring that the community's voices are heard. Now watch the full meeting as RPTV reporter Fred Alvarado captured this important community event.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our second annual Neighborhood Town Hall. When I was a school board trustee, I had monthly town halls. It was a great success, and I thought, you know what, let's try it in my role currently as city councilor. And last year, town halls were well attended, and I thought, you know what, let's do it again, and we'll continue to do it. This time around this year, we actually have a hybrid option. So we do have people following us on, I think, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. So hello to those of you from home. I hope you have a drink in your hand. Not that I'm encouraging alcohol. It can be water as well, right? Or juice, any of those things. Before I begin, I just want to state that we have many city staff present today to answer any of your questions. We're also happy to have Sergeant Dick with us today and Staff Sergeant Gowan, and our new Inspector for 51 Division, Musa. So thank you for being here today, and I look forward to working with you for a very long time, I hope. So the first item on our agenda that I'm going to talk about is the Downtown East Action Plan reset. So as you know, we had a pilot project from 2019 to 2025. This started during COVID, and as you may know, it didn't work out as well as we had hoped for a number of reasons. A lot of our city staff were redeployed into the shelter hotels, and so there's we have staffing issues as a result of that, and we could not really implement the Downtown Action Plan as intended. So we did have public consultations last year. We had 3 in-person consultations and 1 online consultation. And I actually attended each and every one just to make sure that I received the feedback directly from the community. And some of the things that I heard was that we needed more on-the-ground staff to pick up needles, human feces, garbage, and also we also heard from many small businesses stating that they really could not afford the rampant graffiti and glass breakage of their businesses. It was not sustainable. So hearing all those suggestions, and I also met with the staff as well, gave my own feedback. And so they've really, I think, have done a really great job in encompassing our concerns. And so if you look at the chart, it talks about looking at the old action plan versus the new action plan. We have twice daily pickups in the hotspot parks like Allen Gardens, Robert Hall Park, our the park maintenance, all of other parks are cleaned daily. And the one piece that we've added to the new action plan is the Clean Streets team. They are third party, not city operated, third party organization that actually goes out proactively and cleans our laneways and our sidewalks. And even we have a biohazard team that goes out and pick up feces and needles. And I have to say to you that I have worked really hard to increase the budget for the Downtown East Action Center reset. Because we're the only ward in the entire city that has this program. And I had to beg and plead to increase the budget significantly. And I believe the only way for this to actually work the way it's intended to work is by making sure that there's one point of contact for the community to call if they have an issue or they want to, implement the Downtown Action Plan. And that's their 311. So I've been working proactively with 311. And we actually have a dedicated Downtown Action Plan team, 4 people in total that are full-time, 2 people in total that are full-time, plus a manager, specifically for the Downtown East Action Plan. And so I've met with 311, and so when you call 311, you should actually be able to just tell them what the problem is, and they go out, and the needle or feces or whatever is cleaned in a timely manner. And one of the things, so the 311 actually sits in service excellence as a city department. And so I currently do not sit in service excellence, and they don't really have an interest in sitting on that committee. But because the Downtown East Action Plan sits there, I want to proactively, look at it and make sure it's implemented correctly. So I hoping mid-term November that I will sit in service excellence that oversees 311, so I could actually make sure the Downtown Action Plan works as it should. And so just for context, some of these services have started already. For example, we already purchased the biohazard equipment to remove feces, for example. And so that's already currently taking place. But the reset actually will officially start April 1st, because that's when the new city budget begins, April 1st. So that's when it will happen. I did fail to mention that a public school board trustee, Deborah Williams, is here. So thank you, Deborah, for joining us this evening. The next item I want to talk about is the new encampment protocol. So the new encampment protocol passed through council July of this year. And even though it's a new protocol per se, it's the protocol we've been using in Allen Gardens for the last, I'm going to say, 2 years. And it really talks about engaging people, and we have the encampment team here as well. So if we have any in-depth questions, I'll call on them to assist. But it's really about engaging people in the park, in the encampments, asking them, offering them support, pathway to housing, be it shelter or permanent housing. We've had a lot of great success in that. For example, in Allen Gardens, we had 89 encampments when I actually took office 2 years ago. And now we're about down to seven or so. It has sort of ramped up again in other parts of the ward, but not only in this ward, but also across the city. And that's for a number of reasons. One of them, for example, is that we have about 500 refugees coming to the city every month. And they're occupying our shelters, in some cases our parks. And so there's just been a bit of a backlog, I'm going to call it, in actually moving people through. So the mayor and I and council have worked really hard to try and create more spaces, not only shelters, but permanent housing, the wraparound services, not only in Toronto Centre, but across the city. Also to Housing is now delegated to staff, not to councillors. Prior, councillors used to say, not in my ward, right? And so there was always an issue with that. So that responsibility is delegated to staff. And staff will say we're a shelter or support housing or whatever will go. So I find that is more an equitable way of doing things. But back to the encampment protocol. So as this states here, engage, offers support, provide shelter services, clear any debris once people are moved into a home, and install a sign stating no encampments in the park, and monitor. So those are the things that we are doing, and we also have an encampment protocol table chaired by Board Tanner. And one of the things that I brought to council not too long ago, I think it was July or August, was looking at micro shelters, in that we cannot build these spaces fast enough, but micro shelters are something we can actually get people housed right away. And again, I don't think Toronto Centre may be the right place to have these micro shelters, but we have a lot of open spaces in Etobicoke and Scarborough and elsewhere. So again, spread the wealth a little bit. And that we'll get a report back to council soon on that. Developments. So I meet with a lot of developers as part of my responsibility as councillor. And one of the things that I talk to them about when they're creating these buildings is to provide childcare and community spaces within the podium. It's important to note that as councillor, I cannot direct our planning staff. Planning is governed by the provincial government. It's a provincial act. The planner makes independent decisions. The province have also changed the rules around planning for the city, in that by the time when an application is submitted to the city, we have 90 days to get it through council. And so we've created actually a separate department just because of the provincial change. So as a councillor, many people think I have some sort of magic wand and that I make decisions on that. I don't. It's beyond my purview, and actually it's illegal for me to actually give direction to a plan. And one of the things too that we have asked the province to do is to implement inclusionary zoning, which is, in layman's term, is rent control. Under the Wynne government, the legislation was there, but it was never passed. And it's been sitting on the provincial conservatives' desk, and they have not implemented rent control. But I must say, though, that on city properties like TCHC and our city-owned properties, we do implement rent control. So that's important to note. We are doing our part. One of the things I have worked on and championed is making sure that when it comes to demolitions, that our residents are supported. Over 70+% of residents in Toronto Centre are renters. And so, for example, St. Jamestown's all rental, right? And these are privately owned resident buildings. So when I came to office, for example, I worked with the residents at 25 St. Mary's to make sure that they have rent gap payments, proper rent gap payments. And if you look at the chart here, it shows that working with the residents and working with the developer, we're able to actually get them to provide moving allowances, right, to and from. We also provided a 4-month rent for seniors and people with special needs, and we're able to provide them with proper rent gap payments. And so that was a universal the city actually used this as a model initially, rather than a piecemeal approach. But recently, a few months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago now, we're able to actually even increase that by using CMHC numbers and build forms after 2015. So again, if you look to the 25 cent values versus the future, for 1 bedroom, it's 44,700 with the new CMHC numbers, and it's now 50,740, and that's a lump sum payment to the resident. It's up to them to gauge how they use that funds. One of the things that I also implemented, working with the chief of police, is community outreach response engagement, aka it's called, we call it CORE. And so we proactively go out into the Young Dundas area, the Toronto Police and a nurse practitioner, and they go within the catchment of Young Dundas and look for people that are in crisis, and they proactively go out and assist them. And that is the first of its kind in Canada, I believe. And thankfully to Cadillac Fairview, they have actually given us free space close to Joey's at the Center for office space for the nurse and the Toronto Police. So which is amazing. We also increased the funding for the community crisis response as well. And the downtown core is the Kristyn. That's their catchment. When I was a councillor at the local hospital, I actually went into the Kristyn Centre, did a stint with them for about 24 hours and saw what they did and how they work. And they've done amazing work. When I was in the Emerge, I actually used to call the Kristyn, and they used to bring a team, and they used to take them away and took care of them for some time. So I have full faith in the Kristyn and the work that they do, and we're happy to have them as a partner. Next month, Public Health will announce where the downtown hub's going to be, called the Heart Hub. We will make an announcement as to where that's going to be at. And it will provide food care, women's health, dental services, low barrier respite for people who need help. And we're partnering with Unity Health. So I just did this copy here. But so we'll announce where that new location is going to be October 11th, I believe. So stay tuned for that. Pedestrian safety across our ward. So we know that a tragic accident happened over the summer. It affected our family here and the community here in Regent Park. And so I know council was the following week, and I wanted to get this resolved right away. And so we are going to be installing, as you can see on the list, six street lights next year in 2025, and the rest we installed at a future date. So again, most of these are crosswalks, and most of them are in streetcar routes, and I feel that having street lights there is an important thing for public safety. And bike shares. We've expanded I used to sit on TPA, Toronto Parking Authority, and who oversees bike share. And we have really expanded the bike share network across the city, and also in the ward. So we have as of 2023, we have 7 new stations, bike share stations, and 161 docks. And in 2024, we have 3 new stations and 69 docks. And in total, we'll have 95 stations and 2,094 docks, and growing. And it's great. I'm happy that we're actually using that, and I hope we continue to have more bike lanes, despite what the province says. It's a matter of safety. In the short while, in 2024, we've had about 6 deaths in Toronto when it comes to bike accidents. neighborhood projects. So I'm happy to announce that we're actually going to have a new electronic Zamboni and hut in 2025 right down here in Regent Park. I'm also looking at the Moss Park Arena governance and operations review, which will introduce free skate and learn in the arena. Because right now we don't have that. Only Regent Park has this. And quite frankly, too, the current board in its makeup, there's no one in Toronto Centre sitting on the board. I was able to actually recruit a few people who live in Toronto Centre, and because of the toxic culture, let's say, on the board, they've submitted the resignation. So it just highlights why we need a review of the Moss Park Arena board. I have no regrets there. In this building, we have an old test space, and I've been working with staff to help create more community space here. Also talking to Daniel Spectrum to create more space there as well. I'm securing more new community space in phases 4 and 5 in Regent Park. Also last year, we hosted several housing clinics across the board. It was very successful. My staff, Juliet, was the one who took the lead on this. And we had many people who came out, and we were able to help them with our safety partners, which was really amazing. We're also having an SDP refresh here at Regent Park. I think for me, the big piece in the refresh is accountability and making sure that the resources get to the people that actually need it. So that's important. Also in Regent Park, we're also putting in more speed humps because the community has asked for that. There's some blind spots here that are of concern to the community, and they've asked us to look at that with them. We're working with the community to do that. And we're also implementing permit parking in Regent Park only for TCHC residents, not for market people. Okay. Also, too, the Social Development Plan Review Panel and funding opportunities. The deadline is October 21st, 2024, 12 noon. So I encourage you to go and register for that program as soon as possible. So I've worked very hard to communicate as much as we can about everything going on. So we have developed resources for the community. We have printed guides, which we refresh every year. The first ones you can see, it has Regent Park on it. So keep an eye out for that. We have an online resource at chrismoise.ca/resources. And we have neighborhood-specific pages with relevant projects and news on the website. So make sure to take a look at that. We also have launched a text message service that you can subscribe to. It was very useful, for example, during the last rainstorm, 77 Howard. We were able to actually have security go into the building, hand out our literature with the text message information on it. And many residents at 77 Howard actually subscribe, and we're able to reach out to them directly and give them updates on a regular basis. So that really worked well. I encourage you to register for that. We also launched Toronto Centre Talks. It was an online forum. It was actually very informative, and I enjoyed it. We also have breakout rooms, and we have discussions and come back together in the larger rooms. That was really useful, and I hope to continue to do that as well. We're also launching a youth network from ages 14 to 24 who live or go to school in Toronto Centre. an opportunity to learn about municipal government, discuss policy ideas, and earn volunteer hours. I actually spoke at CMU yesterday in one of their classes. I think it was probably 50 students. Just talking to them about local government, and they were very enthused about it. And so they showed interest in signing up. And I think in October or November, I'm going back to TMU to speak to another class. And so yeah, just getting more students involved and engaged. And of course, we do have a Toronto Centre Projects website. Our office maintains to keep residents informed about capital projects happening in their neighborhood and across the board. So I encourage you to go there and take a look at that. So every year as well, we conduct surveys to gather feedback and measure the impact of the downtown use action plan. So it only takes 5 minutes of your time. So go there and just provide some feedback to us so we can make sure things work as they should. And we are organizing a Toronto Centre holiday party where we will recognize this year's Community Builders Award. It's on December 11th at the St. Lawrence Hall from 6 to 9. And it's a ticketed item and there's dinners included, so I encourage you to come there as well. And that is my update. I also see that we have the local NDP here. Wong-Tam is here. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Hi, my name is John, and thank you, Councillor Moise, for making the presentation. So I have a question about the TTC and public transit in general in the city. So I've noticed in terms of day-to-day, I would say the TTC is not very reliable, and I think most residents would agree as well. We've seen 2 oil spills on line 2, and some frequent closures. And on top of that, I feel like the city could really use more transit and within the control of the municipality. I'm not really seeing that the TTC doing a lot of expansion work, either in the Harbourfront East LRT or the Eglinton East LRT. So I'm wondering, as a city councillor and someone who's actually on the TTC board, what are you doing about the state of public transit in the city? Thank you.
It's a good question. I ask myself that question every day. We are working on it. We have taken steps, for example, in the King Street corridor, for example, we've had Toronto Police there, we have traffic wardens there to make sure that the King Street corridor, streetcar get through there quite easily. One of the things we actually passed today at TTC, for example, is actually having enforcement cameras on streetcars so that when vehicles pass it, they actually are ticketed. We've actually have dedicated lines in Scarborough for the bus lanes. As you know, the Scarborough line went down and we need better service for the Scarborough residents. So we've actually created dedicated lines for that. In today's TTC board meeting, we talked about new trains for line 2 because the current subway trains are coming to their natural end. So we've actually working on improving and working with the province and federal government to actually get better trains for that. I was also told by TTC staff that a lot of the closures that have taken place were not really planned closures. It was just because the system is so antiquated in some cases that they've had emergency closures and they haven't had a choice. For safety reasons, they have to close it and dealt with it that way. One of the questions that I didn't get a chance to ask the new CEO this morning was this past weekend. You know, we had the DVP and the garden closed, and line 2 was closed. But I actually had to prepare for this meeting this evening, so I didn't get a chance to ask my question. The thing is even in today's TCC meeting, they stated that we're back to pre-COVID levels when it comes to use of public transit, right? Which is a good thing. But the mayor has also increased the level of service since pre-pandemic as well. So we're throwing as much resources as we can onto public transit. Can we do better? Yes, right? There's a lot of issues with the TTC. The Ontario line, that's going to take another 10 years to build. We're still waiting for the Eglinton LRT to come into effect. Again, that's the province. I know the mayor had a commercial out this past week about the waterfront and wanting an LRT down there. So we are doing all we can to try to, bring more service onto the system and keep it running more reliable. But we're not quite there yet. But that's the best I can ask. I can say about that right now. We've spent a lot of money on TTC, right? We threw a lot of resources into it because it is very important, and we need to try to get people out of their cars and onto the system, right? And as you can see, there are traffic jams in the city every day. If you walk down any of the north-south corridors, you'll see that there's traffic backed up trying to get to the Gardner. We need to work better with Metrolinx, make sure there's more GO trains as well. I know that they do the best they can there as well, but we as a city, as a province, the federal government need to actually invest more into public transportation. So. Okay.
I have a couple of questions regarding the dog park.
For some reason I can't really hear on those lights.
Hello? Hello? We're still to know. Okay, I will use my voice.
Well, those on the line can hear you as well. There's another mic.
Okay. Regarding about the dog park, we've been asking regarding about the dog park because it's rocks. We've been asking for wood chip. In the summertime, it's very hot for the dogs. The other question is the tents in the park. It started from one, now there is a bunch of tents coming into the big park. As you know, Regent Park always gets stuck with a lot of the stuff that it shouldn't be happening. We brought up about the social development plan. That's another topic that there was a meeting a couple of months back. There's a lot of concern about the social development plan in Regent Park, that it has to be brought up. It has to be, for who is the social development plan? My understanding was supposed to be priority for TCAC tenants. Now we have private owners or private renters, and we have agencies. It's a huge concern. Sitting in committees, it's horrible, it's disgusting when you get attacked, bullied, intimidated. Where I sit in a lot of the meetings, I recently had to stop because of a lot of the attack backs. And mentally, physically, and emotionally, that ruins people's life with when TCAC tenants are being attacked all the time when you're trying to speak or you're trying to give your points. So that's another huge topic. Regarding about parking, you said that parking is for priority TCAC tenants. There's a lot of not enough parking. I mean, saying one thing, but doing is another thing. It's huge here in Regent. When we used to have a lot of parking, now there's not enough parking, especially for TCAC tenants. On Tubman, there is that bakery level. When they open, that is packed. People are parked on both sides of the road. And, well, not both sides of the road, but literally on the sidewalk of the TCAC. And for some reason, when they're parked, you don't see the parking people. But when it's daily other stuff, the parking people appear like out of nowhere. So that's another one. It's just, I think it's, for me, I'm asking is that to please listen, and I know you have, but it needs a little bit more action than just talking. I see Yusuf in the meetings, and I see the things that go on. And I think I have spoken and said that I think the stuff that needs to be changed, not just have TCAC tenants meetings the way it used to be. Because it's a lot for TCAC tenants when sometimes our voices is not being heard. It's other people speaking for me or for TCAC tenants when it's not, it shouldn't be that way. I should be heard as for me and as a tenant. And another thing I wanted to bring is that people from condos, I've seen it, where they're bringing their dogs across TCAC building for the dogs to do their poop. And I don't know, like, I have talked to TCAC, but they only could do so much. Right, thank you.
I'd like you to answer those questions. We do have staff here that could actually answer most of those questions. But as I've mentioned, that when it comes to parking, we're actually going to have permit parkings only for TCAC residents, not for parking people. And that's actually in the works. If TCAC is there or staff is there talking about that. Again, the STB refresh, we had many meetings about that with staff. The refresh is going to start very soon. And again, we have staff that can talk to that directly. I spoke about the tents as well, and the new strategy that we have around encampments. We also have the encampment team here as well, so they can touch on all those things. So I'm going to give the mic over to our staff over there, just to touch on some of the issues. So the STB refresh, the tents in the park.
We can start with John for the STP and then find someone for TCHC to speak on it.
Good evening, and yes, thank you for your question, your comments, and your concerns regarding the SDP. There's a lot of things that need to change. I want to reiterate something that hasn't been said enough, and something that you say often. The social development plan was intended for the betterment of lives of TCH tenants, and there has been a lot of challenges to ensure that the investments in Regent Park are equitable and focus on vulnerable folks, the folks that need it the most. And we recognize, and I think the councillor has said, the learnings are there needs to be a higher level of accountability with all of the funding that happens. This has been a 5-year process. As many of you know, the funding is now available for the last round. There will be, there needs to be, and there will be, an actual evaluation of all the resources that have gone through and a report back to community before there's any decisions about further funding. We want to ensure that there's accountability and it's public. But I want to address one more thing, because there's a lot of things that we talk about in terms of the SDP, and make it clear. The social development plan and the social development plan stakeholders table are two separate things. The plan was intended for the entire community, and the stakeholders table was developed as a collaborative, not run by the city, but a collaboration. And there are challenges there, and then we've brought those challenges to the members of the stakeholders table that include grassroots groups, that include organizations, that include some self-appointed community leads. In order for that space to change, there has to be a recognition by all of those members, and we are happy to work with them to change, but that needs to be recognized by all the members. During the refresh, we will be supporting city-supported spaces and not only conversations, but actually a planning and assessment process. I'm happy to talk more about that with anybody afterwards, but it is about rebuilding the engagement and the connection of people to a space that is, as has been described and asked for, safe for folks to talk and converse without the fear or threat being bullied in a space.
So, just regarding about the stakeholders committee, I am one of elected tenant council of this for the stakeholders committee. And I haven't attended because of my last meeting that I went. I got literally attacked, bullied, and in front of a lot of people. And you guys know who it is. And it's disgusting because for me sitting in a committee that I've always talked about the tenants in the community that I have a deep passion living here for too many years. But when these things happen constantly, it is physically, mentally horrible. And this is why I'm saying the STP, and you said the stakeholders, it's separate, but there has to be action taken.
Well, this is why the city is kind of taking over, and it will be city decisions as to who gets the funding or not the SDP table, as you may call it. I know that also Parks is here, the encampment folks are here. May you comment on the tents in the big park? I know I touched on it already, but perhaps you could just elaborate.
So thank you for sharing your concern about the tents in the park, and we do hear you and we appreciate that it's affecting your community. We are committed to helping the most vulnerable people in the community, which are the encampment residents. The city is committed to a housing first approach model, so we are not able to just go into an encampment and remove somebody and just kick them out of the area. So we have to offer them an indoor space that's suitable, that matches their needs. I think Councillor Moise touched on right now, the statistics are very alarming. We are at 60% capacity of refugee claimants in the shelter system. There's not enough output of the shelter system to input more individuals. With that being said, winter planning is happening and we will open more shelter beds as the cold temperatures come. So we have the whole team here that is also working with encampment residents. We have Streets and Homes who visits, who does outreach visits. We have Parks Forestry that comes to clean up needles, debris, all of those types of things. So we are working towards a solution that's agreeable for the whole community, including the most vulnerable.
Okay, thank you. Is he here?
William. Hey, how you doing?
Hi. Do you want to touch maybe on the parking? Do you have a date for that? I know that would be conversations with TCC.
So, I don't know, is someone from Transportation Services here? Because TCHC provided the addresses of TCHC buildings in the community to the councillor's office to allow permit parking folks to initiate that process. So I don't know if anyone's.
We're actively working on that. I just don't remember the timelines off my head, but we could, yeah.
I think it's later this year.
It's later this year. Okay, thank you. We have so many meetings on this. Okay, thank you. I didn't mention the dog park, and I don't have an answer for you right now on that, but I'll get back to you. Okay. Who's? Here we go.
Good evening, Chris. How are you doing tonight? This evening, sorry. I want to acknowledge Chris, one of the hardest workers in city council. The man works his shirt off. And sometimes I see he's sweating. Man works really hard. He's under a lot of stress. But I know he works. he listens, he works, but you know, sometimes, you know, we had to sometimes poke you a little bit so that you get things going in the right direction. In a good way, you know, my friend, in a very good way. With regards to the SCP refresh, is a very thing close to my heart. And I just found out today, we have been provided with written notices, responses. However, this should have been coordinated better. Perhaps invited all these individuals who attended the first meeting in July to attend and get those answers directly answered to them, instead of having just getting random answers to a specific question. For instance, the CBOC is not moving forward, and we need to get some answers for that. In that regard, it would have important for TCSC and Tridel to give us an explanation. With regards to encampments, we know, you know it, it's a very complicated matter. But I'm glad that the city is taking steps to address the needs of members of this community that are facing with difficult challenges for housing. We talked many times about 500 Dundas Street East to become one day official co-op. I think Daniels tried his best to secure a partnership with the housing agency. I don't know how this, what was the outcome of this searching for proposals. So that will be interesting to hear from Daniels if your plan really worked in the favor of creating a co-op, which is what we need in this community so badly. We need co-op housing. That is the way to go, as well as non-for-profit housing. Another thing I want to say is that the social cohesion and the social inclusion plan of Regent Park has been discussed on the SCP refresh. They acknowledge it's not a simple task. It's going to take years and time and energy and patience, and sometimes love your friends and your enemies, because we want to ensure this community is one single community, one Regent Park. And also I would like to ask the city, please provide us with the tools that we need to ensure that we have easy solutions when these discrepancies or misunderstandings happen. We don't have a team that can provide us with conflict resolution, mediation. Those things help to break those disagreements among members of the community. We all had the heart in mind for the best for this neighborhood, but sometimes our ideas collide, and that's because we come from different backgrounds. You know, the SCP refresh, there's two Regent Parks, and somehow we had to find a way to melt it down and become one Regent Park that will be the proud of your legacy one day, Chris. That's I want to point it out to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. I always appreciate your feedback and your advice. So when it comes to the 500 Dundas Street location, again, it's Tridel. It's Daniel's going to take the lead on that. As you know, the feds have provided funding for co-ops, and we've asked Daniels to look into that, and we're happy to work with them to make that happen. I know some have said they'd like to see an indigenous co-op as well there, and again, we've relayed that, to Daniels as well. The city cannot lead that. It's Daniels that needs to do that, but we, again, are happy to work with them to make that happen. Again, the SDP refresh, I guess, again, staff can speak to this more clearly, but we have heard, and since I've been here for the last 2 years, I have heard so many complaints about it. People come speak to me privately, some openly in this forum, as to some of the issues they've had. It's not a safe space. Favors are being given, I'm going to say, to some. And again, for me, as a councillor, accountability is important. This is taxpayers' dollars, right? it's important that the money gets to the people that need it most, and it's intended to get to. And so that's, for me, the most important thing. And accountability is important. And this is why I think, if staff deals with it, if staff manages it, there's accountability on their part. I can point to them if something goes wrong, right? And they know that, and I've said that out loud, I'm saying here now. So I think it's important that people like you and other groups that will benefit from this refresh should approach our staff. As I mentioned in my remarks, they're closing the application process on October 21st at 12 noon, so there's lots of time to, go online and do what you need to do. But the conversation doesn't end there. Like I'm sure staff and myself is open to having the dialogue continue, right? So John is here, is always accessible. You can speak to him now if you want to. And so I encourage that. And if you feel that, there's an area that you need support and the community needs support, we're happy to work with you. I have done that, my office has done that throughout. I used to visit every meeting, and Nez just mentioned that as well. Like, he represents me when he's in those spaces, right? And he speaks with my voice, I say to him. So the same level of respect that you give to me, I expect you to give to him as well. And if you need support around mediation and other things, that's something that perhaps, we can maybe, as a city, look into. For example, I was told that we needed more housing support, so we had housing clinics, right? At one point, there was hundreds of people lined up at the test space out here. Over in St. Jamestown, same thing. That was a need that we recognized, that we were told that was needed, and we acted on it. So all you have to do is ask, and we'll do our best, right? But thank you.
You are.
Thanks, Councillor. I just thought I'd add to your comments on the application of 500 Dundas. My name's Sarah, I work for the Daniels Corporation. So to your question, we did launch a public call for applications for an affordable housing partner, and that application process has now closed. We had a lot of fantastic submissions, and we're currently going through the evaluation process with TCHC. So we should have a selected partner by the end of the year.
Thank you.
All right, hello, Councillor Moise, and also our other elected representatives, MPP Kristyn, Wong-Tam, and our school board trustee, hi. And also thanks to all the staff. I know it takes a village to put stuff like this on. My question's a little bit more macro level, but it was great to hear my fellow community members talk about some specific concerns here. One thing I've noticed in the city, and I actually had the pleasure of listening to Minister Fideli tell me a couple months back that there's 250 cranes in the city right now, building condos. And one pattern I've noticed is that these developments are proposed, they have a lot of community amenities pitched as part of the project. And then it goes through a rather extensive consultation process, and then it gets approved. And then there's amendments made to these projects that remove most, if not all, of these community benefits. And it's subject to a much lower profile public consultation process after that happens. And I know you mentioned earlier about the Provincial Planning Act and how you can't really direct planning staff, and I appreciate that. But I'm wondering what City Council can do to sort of prevent this from happening. I'm aware of Section 37 of the Provincial Planning Act. I'm wondering if that can be leveraged a little bit more effectively to make sure that these promised community benefits actually come to fruition. Because honestly, sometimes I feel like I walk down the street and there's no culture at all in the city.
Thank you for the question. It's a good question. There are about 70 applications in Toronto Centre alone. I think probably one of the highest of all the wards. The province changed the act last year or 2 years ago now, Bill 39, in that we're only permitted to collect 4% of community benefits from development, right? us to actually even collect or ask for more than that, right? Which is crazy. So we used to be able to get more from Section 37, now we can't. And like I said, I don't have influence over the Planning Act, but the reason why I meet with developers is to determine how that 4% is used. So it can go towards affordable housing within the units, within the building. It can go towards perhaps a daycare. It can go towards a recreation facility, or even a park. You know, those sort of things I have conversations with the developers, which is outside of the planning itself. So, as I mentioned, I cannot direct the planning staff. So this has actually really impacted our reach into as to what we can do in the city when it comes to these developments. But what I am trying to do in some areas of the ward, and you mentioned a sense of community. One of the things I'm trying to do, for example, in the Church Wellesley neighborhood, is to acquire a land assembly using a land trust. So when a development goes up, I can say to the developer, well, perhaps we can have, let's say, 500 square feet, or 5,000 square feet, or 2,500 square feet within the podium, right? Using the 4% of the total value of that property. And so perhaps what I'm trying to do, for example, is bring Pride Toronto back in the village, Black Cap, all the services that the queer community needs and is used to. And paying them, charging them X amount of rent for those spaces. And hopefully by acquiring whatever they pay, put it in a pot, we're going to expand that and purchase more spaces, right? Because I think I was told about 3% of the tenants at the Church Wellesley neighborhood actually own their property. They all rent. Cruise and Tango, Woody's, they all rent their properties. The garage, all rentals. So at any point in time, the developer can say, you know what, you're done. Or they can increase their rent and it's not attainable for them to continue their business. So with intention, I am going in trying to do that. In Regent Park specifically, I've been working with TCHC to create more community spaces. Right, there's a lot of space available, not only in phases 4 and 5, but I think also 2 through phases 1 and 3. There are really a lot of spaces that are well utilized here. So we've actually did an audit a few months ago to see, how the spaces, what space is available, how they're being utilized. And I mentioned the test space earlier. Like that's been vacant for, almost a year and not being well used. So we are working with Parks, BFNR, to utilize that space so the public can have access to it. Okay. It's a quiet group tonight. That's fine. Anyone online?
We got
I think I'm doing such a great job that people don't show up anymore.
Hello, Councillor Moise. Thank you for this opportunity to ask a question regarding the recent Ontario government's announcement to shut down the harm reduction sites, safe injection sites, including the one in Regent Park, and citing crime concerns. And what's the impact to the community amidst the housing crisis, and particularly regarding the transition to hard cops and the future of harm reduction staff as residents worry about the worsening drug crisis?
Well, I want to start by saying the Heart Hub announcement is actually a good announcement, and I support it. There is actually a Heart Hub that was recently, I think the last 3 months in London, Ontario, and there's been a lot of great success to it. Some of the service providers in our ward actually already provide a Heart Hub model. For example, the Regent Park Community Centre, Regent Park Health Center actually provides a hub model already. So public health, we actually applied for the hub model already as well, in our new location, which will be announced October 11th. But that being said, it's important. I believe that safe consumption sites do save lives. They really do. My background is addiction and mental health. I've worked in this industry for about 22 years in the local hospital in various departments, one of them being withdrawal management. And I have seen firsthand that it has saved lives and continues to save lives. In the last month, I've actually visited most of the safe consumption sites in the ward and across the city, just to provide support to them, because a lot of the staff there are very concerned about their clients, and they may actually die as a result of not being in a safe space. What irritates me the most about what I see in the news most evenings is that people are saying that harm reduction or safe consumption sites, they provide drugs to people. They do not provide drugs to people. People go into those spaces with their own drugs, and they are monitored while they use, and they're given clean needles, syringes to use, right? Make sure it's done in a safe space, and the staff there, monitors them. And if they overdose, then the staff intervenes and help them. And in most cases, save their lives. My concern is that if safe consumption sites are closed, people will continue to use, but they will use in our parks, in our laneways, in our school grounds, and there'll be more needles on the street, right? And so I know when I was in the hospital, before safe consumption sites, people actually used to go in the emergency and take syringes off the carts, right? I mean, I used to see them, I didn't say anything. But, and then they went out into the street, in the park, and they shared one needle among themselves, because usually we know that addicts don't usually use by themselves, they use in a group setting. And so they share one needle among themselves, which of course increases HIV and Hep C. The data is there, we've seen it. It took a long time to actually get addicts to actually use harm reduction services, right? It took almost a generation for them to actually start recognizing that, the importance of it. And the reason why also too they go into the safe consumption sites is because they know the staff, they trust them, and they feel safe there, right? So that you build that bond. So I'm really concerned that if we don't have that service, first, many people will overdose and will die. And secondly, our emergency services, because when there is an overdose call or life-saving measure, all three emergency services are called, right? The police, paramedic, and fire, because whoever gets there first, they start life-saving measures. So if we're chasing our tails, trying to, deal with, overdoses, then if someone actually has a heart attack or a stroke or something, and they need, emergency services to attend, it's going to affect our wait times. Not only on the streets of Toronto, but also in the emergency departments, because the paramedics will transfer them to the hospital, and that will, inundate our emergency departments, and it will affect wait times. Like I've had conversations with the president of Unity Health and other health providers in the city. I met with the president of CAMH, and we all share the same concerns, right? And we're all provincially funded as well, so we can't speak openly as we'd like to about these things. Another thing too is that when it comes to harm reduction, is Toronto Public Health that provides the harm reduction kits to the health providers across the city. And in the province of funding the harm reduction kits, then that too is going to be a problem. So we continue to talk to the provincial government about this, and I've been very clear as to my stance on this particular subject. And I hope that they will have a change of heart based on the feedback they're hearing from not only myself, but also to our partners and caregivers, and even individual residents, right, who are impacted. Like I know that some parents have reached out to me and also to the school board trustees saying that they're concerned that if safe consumption sites close and harm reduction services is not available, that it will impact their kids in a negative way, right? So I think common sense should prevail.
Hello, I just want to ask a follow-up question to what you said about TTC. I saw actually the TTC board meeting today. I'm very glad that automatic enforcement is being added to streetcar. And I really appreciate that a lot of times the basics, the nuts and bolts are underappreciated, and I do agree the TTC should do more. But related to more long-term vision, I'm still really not seeing how TTC as a municipal agency is trying to do for us, for the system to actually get people moving around. You mentioned TTC needs a lot of money, and we're putting a lot of money through it with the city government, the provincial government, and the federal government. But the state of the matter is, I think I've seen that TTC is the least subsidized public transit system in North America, and fare actually makes up probably 3/4 of the budget, and that's higher than the MTA in New York, and my understanding is it's higher than Vancouver, than Chicago. So every time I pay $3.30 for a fare, I really don't feel like I'm getting a lot of value out of it for the price I pay. So my question is, given that we have this two-tier system with Metrolinx and the TTC, which are independent organizations, but at the end of the day, TTC is a creation of the provincial government, and I'm glad that we have MPP Wong-Tam here today as well. So it's, at the end of the day, subordinate to provincial authority, which controls Metrolinx as well. So the current system of having two tiers for public transit, specifically in Toronto and Greater Toronto area, and having TTC funded by the city purely for operational budgets, is that sustainable, and is it really fit for purpose for the weight that TTC is carrying? Because we know the city is a creation of the provincial government as well, and only collects property taxes and use fees. So it's very, very financially strained, and we have a lot of backlogs that's not covered ever since Mike Harris pulled the plug on the operating budget of the TTC. Thank you.
You've said it better than I could. The city cannot, by itself, cannot sustain the TTC, right? We're always going hand in hand, asking for more funds from the province and the federal government, and it's not sustainable, right? And we've asked for more sustainable funding. One of the things that we've asked for from the province is actually 1% of the sales tax, right? The sales tax can do so much for the city. It could help, pay for public transit. It could help build, maintain our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, and so forth, right? Even provide adequate housing for people. Because the sales tax is based on, everything you buy from in the store, right? Be it a car, be it a Tim Hortons coffee, it's all sales tax, right? Every little bit counts. The city spends a lot of money, trying to promote itself and bringing tourism here, right? We have FIFA coming here, for example. We're gonna have Taylor Swift coming here, right? And we're doing our part to bring more people here in the city, but we're not seeing the benefits of that as a city government, right? And I'm happy that small businesses and others benefit from it. I mean, I feel that as a city representative, as a city councillor, it's incumbent of me to do that. But I think it's unfair though that we don't see the benefits of that as the city itself. And I also think it's unfair that it's the homeowner, right? Because our revenue, as you very well stated, the majority of our revenue comes from the property tax, right? And in some cases, the business tax as well, property tax. And that is static. So regardless of how much, money, no matter how much people come into the city, that doesn't change, right? Our property tax is static. And so we are saying to the province, please help us help ourselves. And I think that's the way perhaps to create more and better transit. But again, we're doing the best we can as a city with the few resources that we have. We have a $17 billion a year budget. It may sound like a lot, but really when you chop it up into little pieces, we're really nickel and diming ourselves, right? I'll give you an example. Last week at the Economic and Community Development Committee, we welcomed the youth laureate, to the city. Our first youth laureate, who was a TCAC resident in Scarborough, and it was $50,000, to actually to pay this person, and budget chief Carol said to me that she really had to look closely at the budget to find the money to pay this individual. I'm thinking to myself, in a $17 billion budget, you have to sort of nickel and dime yourself to find $50,000. But that's where we're at in the city right now, right? So, and again, as I mentioned earlier, another example is the refugee situation, right? 500 refugees. We welcome people to Canada and to Toronto for sure, right? I think all of us here are immigrants, right? But it's unfair that people come here and they go into our shelter system, and the needs of those in the shelter is very different from those, than a refugee. So the city, everything's being downloaded to the city. The province has zero accountability when it comes to these things, or even the federal government, quite frankly. If things don't happen, if we don't resolve issues, if we don't get people out of, if we can keep people in the encampments, then it's our issue, right? The province then will come and say, like, councillor, deal with this, right? We'll take care of it. We have to take care of it. So this is why I hear you, I support what you're saying, but there's only so much that we can do as a city. But that being said, I don't want to sound like a defeatist. We'll continue to invest in public transit as we continue, as we always have. I see the MPP wanted to comment.
I'm hoping to add some value to what the councillor has just spoken about, and it's great to see everybody, folks, and especially to all those neighbors here, and to the city staff who are here late in the evening. Thank you very much. To the comment around the funding gaps at the TTC, obviously there is significant challenges in the system. It's not just operating its capital, it's expansion, it's making sure that the grid is reliable, connected, and affordable, because $3.30 is probably very high based on mass transit use anywhere in North America. It's probably one of the highest, and I think we can all recognize that. The structural funding gap as it exists is nothing new, but I can say that things that I am working on behalf of our community, but also on behalf of many Ontarians, including city dwellers, urban dwellers, is to ensure that we have a new deal for cities, and that's something that my party is very committed to. And I can tell you that the reception that we've been receiving when the leader travels across Ontario, I'm not making a partisan pitch, but I just want to share with you what is happening, is that municipalities and towns are very deeply frustrated with the provincial download on social services onto municipalities. There's 1,400 encampments across Ontario. We have funding gaps, structural funding gaps when it comes to transit, health, and education, and these are sizable, and not just here in Toronto Centre, not just in Toronto, but right across Ontario. So definitely I want to, let the councillor know and let everyone know that you have a partner in myself at Queen's Park. I think it's really important that we hear from municipal politicians at Queen's Park, to be quite honest, because we don't. I tell you, we have a revolving door of all sorts of different lobbyists, but we don't see the municipal partners the way I think that we need to be seen and heard, especially Toronto, because the provincial government is not, they are keen to support Toronto, but only on their terms. So it's very important that you use the political power that you have, and you do have a lot of political power. TCHC has a lot of political power, the City of Toronto has a lot of political power, and the Board of Health has political power, and of course the Mayor and the City Council has political power, and most importantly, residents have political power, and we need to hear from you folks when you have the chance. And just recognize that it is hard to ignore the largest city in Canada, the financial heart, the cultural heart of this province, and things are happening, but they're happening without the city participation, and that's been my biggest observation since getting to Queen's Park 2.5 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I also wanted to add as well too, I'm also part of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and about 3 months ago I was in Calgary at our conference, and with 3,200 other city councillors and mayors, and some of the conversations we had was around transit, the federal government supporting municipalities directly when it comes to transit and funding for transit, along with, of course, housing, addictions, and all those things. And it's amazing, no matter which part of the country that is speaking, the concerns they have are very much the same, right? Calgary has the same issues, Vancouver has the same issues, right? And they're all struggling as we are. So, and at the conference, the Prime Minister was there, the opposition leader was there, and all the opposition leaders were there. And we were able to speak to them directly about the needs of our city. And so they heard us loud and clear, and in some instances they have put their money where their mouth is. So we also need to engage the feds as well.
Thank you, Chris. I have a follow-up question. You mentioned that the city Section 37 has been replaced by 4% of the cost of the land. Right now, I'm speaking as a director of the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association, RPNA. We have been in discussions for community benefits in Regent Park. My biggest concern is creating job opportunities for people with mental health disabilities. And I'm being in contact with Tradell, and it is just conversation, nothing comes as a positive outcome, but sometimes we always talk about ideas, but money is not available. We don't know exactly what is the 4% cost of the land for phases 4 and 5, because if we knew that information, that will help us tremendously to project ahead to create those job opportunities that affects deeply our community in Regent Park. It's sad to say that we live in brand new buildings, phases 1, 2, and 3, but our income remains the same. That has not changed, but I'm here as a person with mental health disabilities and physical disabilities, pushing continuously, and for indigenous rights too, for a housing co-op for indigenous people. I want to make sure that this community has those opportunities, because in phases 1, 2, and 3, we were not given those opportunities. I want to thank Kristyn Wong-Tam for speaking out for our municipalities. It's sad that tonight, Marcy Ian is not here tonight to help us out as well, because we all require the 3 levels of government to be in united front, as we are facing a possibility that in the next coming years we're going to have a conservative government in 1 to 2 years. I hope not, but hopefully in Ontario we can make a change for the better, and and have this despicable person or people from there who make awful comments on people living in encampments to say that, oh, if you are healthy, why don't you find a job? But he doesn't understand that many of those displaced people used to live in homes, and they were renovated, evicted, or their homes. They used to have jobs, but many of them, they fall into the cracks, society, they become addicted, they start to do drugs, and alcohol, etc., etc., etc. So, I just want to know if Tridel and TCAC will let us know what is the cost of the 4% of the land. So that, as I said again, that will lead us to know, to the knowledge that if we have the money, we can create those full-time, those jobs for our community, of this, our disability community that gets ignored, and just giving a lip service time and time again. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Miguel. Again, the 4% is a little different when it comes to TCAC properties, but I will have TCAC answer the question. Where's TCAC? I think specifically to the Tridel.
Unfortunately, Tridel is not here today for today's town hall. But with regards to the community benefits associated with phases 4 and 5, TCAC is committed to working with the community to bring these types of opportunities that have been allocated and that we know of that are needed for people living in Regent Park, inclusive of what Miguel has advocated for, supporting people with mental health and addiction, including jobs for young people and training for young people and those looking for second careers. We also understand, and we're working with Tridel to ensure that opportunities of this type are brought to the community in a way that's compatible with the needs of community members, meaning that sometimes people are looking for full-time jobs, sometimes people are looking for part-time jobs, and jobs that they can work after school, or maybe more hours during the summertime, or things like that. So we are working to develop the employment plan, and that will be brought forward to the community. We're not going to do it just with TCAC and a developer. It's going to include community agencies, Toronto Employment Social Services, and many others to bring this plan to reality and bring these opportunities to tenants in Regent Park.
Okay, thank you. You have a follow-up question?
Yeah. Regarding job opportunities, I want to specifically talk about community animators. Why can we fund the community animators to become a permanent job position rather than to be just a career experience knowledge? Can we have that discussion moving forward in 2025? Because we're used to this type of jobs that only last for a while, and it keeps us poor. Yes, it gives us experience to talk to people. I speak to the police all the time. Hello, Sergeant on the back, Sergeant Dick. How you doing, man? You see, I am a speaker. I'm a public speaker. So why don't you give me an opportunity as a person with disabilities who have a full-time job, my friend? Thank you.
So for those who don't know, TCAC, in partnership with a third-party vendor, hires community members to be information ambassadors to further engage the Regent Park community. Some of our community animators go out door to door, especially in the TCAC buildings, to do surveys, lobby intercepts. You've definitely seen them at community events, with a booth to help ensure that the voice of Regent Park residents are shared with TCAC, the developer, and many other stakeholders, and they play a very important role. I think just to provide a little bit more context, on an annual basis, we try and bring new residents or different residents to be community animators as they graduate through the program. And the program offers some skill building, some hands-on training, and actual work in the community, and it's a great opportunity. Some people really enjoy the opportunity to be a community animator because they get to ensure that their community is mobilized and involved in the redevelopment and revitalization process. It's a very key thing. So, but we do refresh this on an annual basis to allow new people and different people to get that opportunity, and we really try to support as people graduate from the program to secure other types of employment. And we know that can be very challenging, so perhaps we need to do a better job working with other employers and employment service providers to ensure transition is made with our community animator teams, so that way they can seek other employment opportunities.
Thank you. All right, well, see. One last question before we.
One question is a comment. So regarding about the animators, it has come a long way. I was one of the first when the animators started, and we didn't get paid. So it has come a long way where animators get paid now. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yes. So, this is the end of our evening. I just want to thank everyone for coming out today, staff and Toronto Police and all of you here and those following us online. Thank you for being here. Reach out to my office anytime. As most of you know, my constituent office is just here at Dundas and Parliament. We're open from 11 to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday. You can also reach us by calling our office or emailing my office. It's important to note we do not respond to social media. So feel free to post, but we don't respond. If you want us to help you in some way, call us, come visit us, email us. And so again, thank you to everyone for coming out tonight, and safe journey home. Be well.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also follow us on social media, and for more information, check out our website.